Today we're going to begin in the second module, and we're going to talk about percentages, and in particular we're going to use what's called the percent equation. And the percent equation is actually this part. It's the is over the of is over of divided by, is over of is equal to the percent divided by 100. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a word problem or an application problem, convert that application into a percentage using this percent equation, and then we're going to solve the percent equation. Now, as far as this percent equation is concerned, it's is over of is equal to percent over 100. So as you're reading through the problems, wherever you see the word or the percent symbol, that automatically goes over the top of 100. So you don't move a decimal or anything. You simply remove the percent symbol and stick that over 100. This is also equal to the part over the whole is equal to the percent over 100. So if you think about a fraction, in a fraction, the fraction is the part over the whole or the part over the base is equal to some percentage. So this in essence is the same exact formula. Now we solved the percent equation by using something called the cross product property. And here's the cross product property. It says if A over B is equal to C over D. All right, so in essence, you have what's called a proportion. And a proportion is simply two ratios or two fractions set equal to each other, which is what we have. Then you can cross multiply. You can multiply A times D, and you can set that equal to B times C, and then you can solve. So what our attempt is to convert a word application problem into the percent equation and then solve the percent equation. All right, so let's take a look at some examples. All right, so here's the first one, and it says what number is 50% of 36? So I'm just going to write that percent equation again, which is over of is equal to percent over 100. So as I read through this, it says what number is. So that means as far as this is concerned, that's our unknown. So I'm going to represent the unknown quantity by the letter N. Is 50%. So notice I see my percent symbol. So I'm automatically going to drop my percent symbol, and I'm going to stick that over 100. The percentage is a part of 100. Of 36, so 36 is our of, so that goes in our denominator. So now in order to solve, we want to cross multiply. So I'm going to multiply N times 100. So that gives us 100N. I'm going to multiply 50 times 36. All right, so we're going to multiply 50 times 36, which should be, I believe that's 1,800, 50 times 36.
Yeah.
All right, so this is 100 N equal to 1,800. So here we want to solve for N. So this is going back to algebra just slightly. So the opposite of multiplying N by 100 would be to divide by 100, right? So you always want to isolate for your variable. So I'm going to, the properties of equality tell you whatever you do to one side, do the exact same thing to the other side. So on the left-hand side, the 100 is going to cancel. We're left with N. These two zeros cancel. So N is going to equal to 18. That's right. You can just do the number divided by 2, but we actually have a couple of numbers. We got this 30 and this 56. You see what I'm saying? So true indeed, 50% is half. So we could take half of 36 to get the 18. All right. But placing it in this percent equation, okay, that is over of is equal to the percent over 100. All right, so let's take a look at number 2. All right, so it says what percent of 60 is 54? So now it's not really necessary for you to write out this percent equation all the time, okay, but for instruction purposes, I'm just going to write it out. So it automatically starts out with what percent. So we're trying to find the percentage. So the right-hand side of this equation is going to come down, and I'm going to convert that percentage to that variable N. Right? N just represents an unknown quantity. In this case, an unknown percentage. So it says what percent of 60, so of goes in the denominator. So I'm going to put 60 in the denominator, is 54. So we're going to put 54 in the numerator. We're going to cross multiply using that cross product property. So we're going to multiply 54 times 100, which is 5,400. That's equal to 60 times N, which is 60 N. So now we want to solve for our unknown variable N. So the opposite of multiplying N by 60 is to divide by 60. So we're going to divide both sides by 60. On the right-hand side, the 60, they're going to cancel, and we're left with N. And if we look on the right-hand side, we can cancel one of those zeros on the end. And then 540 divided by 6, I believe that should give us 90. Right, so for that second question, N is equal to 90. All right, so we're using a percent equation to set it up and a cross product property to solve. All right, so let's take a look at the last one of these type problems. So it says 18 is 72% of what number? I'm going to write out that percent equation. So reading question number 4 says 18 is, so we're going to put 18 in the numerator, 72%. So anytime we see that percent symbol, we're going to put it on the right-hand side of our equation. We're simply going to drop the percent symbol and stick that over 100. Huh? I didn't put it on there. I'm sorry. I'm trying something new. Before, when I do the lectures, I didn't like pass this out. So I'm kind of, okay, so I'm sorry. Question number 4, I believe that's the only one that's missing. Sorry about that.
We don't have 4 or 5.
Do I have?
All I have is 1, 2, 3.
Well, they're not going in order. I apologize.
Okay.
Question 1, 2, and this question number 4, they are coming out of section 2.1. I'm sorry, let me go back in. So like this very first problem, that's 2.1, number 1. So what that means is for module 2, section 1, this should be similar to your first problem. So if you look at your first problem, it should be similar. This is 2.1.2. This is 2.1.4. And I apologize, this one is not on the set of notes. All right, but that will be similar to module 2, section 1, number 4. I apologize, they're not really going in order because you may see like some of these numbers are off. All right, the next problem, this is coming out of section 2.1, and this is problem number 11. Okay, so this is still in that same percent equation. All right, now we're asked to, in this case, they give us an equation. So remember that in algebra, anything that contains an equal sign is an equation. So they're giving us an equation, and they want us to convert the equation to an application. All right? So we're kind of going in reverse. Now, before we actually take a look at this problem, there are just a couple of things about a percent. And this is just a fact. You can change a decimal to a percent by moving the decimal 2 places to the right and add the percent symbol. So if you're given a decimal, you can change any decimal to a percent by simply moving that decimal 2 places to the right and then attaching your percent symbol. So here are some examples. So the directions tell us to convert to a percent. All right, so the fact just says that you can change a decimal to a percent by moving the decimal 2 places to the right and simply attaching a percent symbol. So let's say if we had something like 0.15, we can change that to a percent by simply moving that decimal 2 places to the right. So if I move it 1 place to the right, it's in front of the 1. If I move it another place to the right, now it's behind the 5. So 0.15 becomes 15, right? Because we move that decimal 2 places to the right. And then we're going to attach that percent symbol. How do you write the number 1 as a percentage? Well, if you think about 1 as a decimal, that decimal is where? It's behind the 1, right? Because it's understood to be behind the 1. I can change 1 to a percentage by doing the same thing. I can move that decimal 2 places to the right. So if I move it once to the right, I add a filler 0. If I move it again to the right, I add another filler 0. So the number 1 as a percent is 100%. And I will just do one more. Let's just say if you had 2.5, how would you convert that to a percent? Well, you would just move your decimal 2 places to the right. So 2.5 would actually be 250%. All right, and then there's just one more example. 0.0625. If you had to write 0.0625 as a percentage, you would move that decimal 2 places to the right, and that would give you 6.25%. So if you don't see a decimal, it's behind that whole number. Okay, now here's why I kind of bring that up. If we take a look at problem number 11, we're given an equation, and that equation says n is equal to 0.15 times 950, and we're asked to write out in words, basically. So now this is what we've been looking at up to this point. This percent equation, which is over of, is equal to the percent over 100. And if I take a look at what I'm actually given, we're given n is equal to 0.15 times 950. Now this is where a little bit of algebra comes in. So you notice for our equation, we have n is equal to 0.15 times 950. If we were to, let's say, divide by 950, so like whatever you do to one side, you got to do the exact same thing to the other side. So if I divide both sides by 950, right, I divide the left-hand side by 950, and then when I divide this right-hand side by 950, what's going to happen? Those 950s are going to cancel. Right, so on this side, the 950s are going to cancel. And I'm left with something that looks like this. N over 950 is equal to 0.15. Now, from what we just looked at, we can convert 0.15 to a percent, right? So like 0.15 is 15%, and 15% is the same thing as 15 over 100, right? So that means that I can actually rewrite this as n over 950 is equal to 15 over 100. So now I'm going to use this equation and this percent equation to kind of interpret one of these answers. Right. So just by looking at this, this would read something like this. I don't know the is part. I know the of is 950. And I know my percentage should be 15%, right? So I believe if we look at this last one, that would fit this situation. What number is, because we don't know the is, 15%, so remember on this right-hand side we have 15% of 950. So when you're looking at problem number 11, 12, and number 13, you're going to have to divide. So here I chose to divide both sides by 950. Is everybody okay with this? I divided both sides by 950. So on the left-hand side, we have n divided by 950 is equal to 0.15 because the 950s cancel. And then over here, I just converted 0.15 to that 15%, and I kind of interpreted it using the percent equation. So now playing devil's advocate a little bit, what if I would divide both sides by 0.15 instead of 950? So let's see what that'll look like. So if I divide both sides by 0.15, here I have n over 0.15 is equal to, and if I divide over here by 0.15, I'm left with like 950, right? So now just based on this setup, if I were to put in, or if I were to put 950 over 100, would that be like a legitimate setup? Well, not really, because one thing we have a fraction, and then within that fraction we got a decimal, which is another fraction. For our percent equations, we don't have any percents that should run over like 100%. So this would not be the correct setup. Because from the initially, I could divide both sides either by 950 or I could divide by 0.15. When I divide by 950, notice I'm able to write that right-hand side out as a percentage. All right, so for problem number 11, and again, this is from 2.1, the solution should be what number is 15% of 950? Okay. Well, that's right. It don't want us to solve it. It just wants us to write it out in words. All right, so let's look at problem number 12. And like problem 11 and 12, they don't have any like video examples on them. All right, so this same thing, write a basic percent problem, which can be found by using the equation n times 44 is equal to 22. So n times 44 is equal to 22. So what should I do for this problem? Yeah. A. What percent of, why would you say A?
Because the way it's written.
That would be the right answer. So we have n times 44 is equal to 22. I could divide both sides by that 44, right?
Oh.
Because you only want to divide whatever is attached to your variable. So the opposite of multiplying by 44 is to divide by 44. And then we could put n over 100. So from this point, we can interpret this as what percent, because we don't know n, right? N is that percent over 100. What percent of 44, right? Because of is in our denominator. So 44 is the of, and is 22. So we should have what percent of 44 is 22. All right, any questions about 11 or 12? All right, now we're going to move to the next, and this is actually in 2.2. All right, so we're moving into another section. And in this section, I believe it talks about sales tax, sales rates, commission rates, and then at the end there's something called luxury tax. All right, but I'm going to write out a few formulas that deal with sales tax. So sales tax, that's equal to the purchase price times the sales tax rate. The sales tax rate is usually set by the state. So when you go in, let's say if you go into the gas station, now gas is what's called pre-tax. So like when you go and pump $10 worth of gas, they don't charge you the sales tax rate on that because that's already included. Another thing about gas and gas stations, when they change the price of the gas at the gas station, the gas that's in the gas tank has already been paid for, if that makes any sense. When they raise the price on gas, so you notice how the little sign, you may ride down the street, some says $2.59, and then you ride down a little bit further, or they'll change and say $2.89. What I mean by that is the gas at $2.59 is already in the ground at the gas station in the gas tanks. And when they up the price, they're really jibbing us out of money. Because all that gas already been paid for, it's in the ground. So the new gas, when they fill those tanks up again, that new gas coming in should cost a higher price. But then it's like a two-way street because sometimes the price go down and then the gas already in there. So just kind of bringing that to your attention. But like if you were to go into the same gas station and say like you purchase $10 worth of items, they're going to charge you the state sales tax for South Carolina, which is what? 7%? Is it 8? I don't live in South Carolina. Let me just look that up. It is 6%. So that means when you go in the store and you buy something for $10, they're going to charge you 6%. Now, what is 6% as a decimal? You got to reverse the process, right? So let me just write that down. To convert a percent to decimal, move the decimal 2 places left. So we're just reversing the process and drop the percent sign. So whenever you're performing calculations with percentages, you got to change the percentages to decimals. So like 6% convert to a decimal. 6%, I'm going to drop my percent symbol. So as far as the 6 is concerned, my decimal is behind the 6, right? So I have to move it once to the left, which puts it in front of the 6. I move it again to the left, so I add and fill a 0. So 6% is 0.06. So if I take the $10 and if I multiply it by 0.06, it's 60-cent sales tax. So that means when I purchase my final product or whatever, I have to take the sales tax plus I have to add the purchase price, and that gives me $10.60 as the total price you pay the cashier. Right? Now here's kind of a slick way to do this. Instead of doing 2 calculations, so let's just say I go in the store and I buy something for $12. So how much do I pay when I'm at the register? Right. Well, I can multiply 12 times 0.06, and then I can add $12, so I get $12.72, right? Here's something else you could do. Since the sales tax is 6%, the total percentage is 1. So like 1, that's the total. That would be the total, which is 100%. I could take 100% plus 6%, which gives me 106%, right? If I had 106%, how would I change that to a decimal? I would just move the decimal, we'll drop the percent symbol, move the decimal 1, 2 places to the left. So 106% is equal to 1.06, right? So that means if I take something that's $12, if I multiply by 1.06, I'm going to get that $12.72 in 1 step versus 2 steps, right? So now here's the thing about percentages, and also, well, we'll talk about the decrease in the next step. All right, so here is the formula for sales tax. It's the purchase price times the sales tax rate, whatever that may be. If you want to find the sales tax rate, normally they're going to give you the sales tax rate, but if you're dealing with a problem that doesn't give you the sales tax rate, it would have to give you the sales tax amount. And if you divide that by the purchase price, that's going to give you the sales tax rate. And we're going to look at some problems that deal with these formulas. And the last formula is to find the total price. All right, so to find the total price, you would simply take the purchase price plus the sales tax amount. All right, so that's sort of what we did for the $10 example. If you take $10, if you go to the store, you know the sales tax rate. So once you multiply the 10 times the 0.06, that gives you the sales tax amount. Then you take that sales tax amount, add it to the purchase price, and that gives you like the total price. So if I add $10 to the sales tax amount, that gives me that total price. All right, and we're going to see an example that deals with the sales tax rate. All right, so now that we have the formulas, let's take a look at the problems. So this is 2.2, number 3. 2.2, number 3. Okay, so this is sales tax and purchase price. Suppose the sales tax rate in a certain state is 9%. How much sales tax is charged on a new car if the purchase price is $19,800? All right. So the first part asks us to find the sales tax. So we had a formula for that, right? The sales tax was equal to the purchase price times the sales tax rate So we know that the purchase price is $19,800. We know that the sales tax rate is 9% for this certain state. When we perform the calculation, we can't use 9%. We have to change it to a decimal. So 9% as a decimal is 0.09. So now we're just going to multiply the two together. So 19,800 times 0.09. So the sales tax amount is $1,782. So that would be the first part, 1782. And then the next part wants to know what's the total price. So we had a formula also for the total price. The total price is the purchase price plus the sales tax. So that purchase price was $19,800 plus the sales tax, which was $1,782. And I believe if we add all that together, we should get $21,582 was the total price. So now this question asks for you, it asks for the problem in bits and pieces. First, it asks for the sales tax amount, then it asks for the total price. But if you're at I'm assuming this is a car. Yeah. If you're at a car dealership, you can get this total price, 21, by simply doing what? Well, I can take the purchase price, which is $19,800. I can multiply that by 1.09, right? Because we're adding 9%, which is 0.09, to the 100% total. We're increasing the 100% total by 9. And this will just outright give us the $21,582 in one step versus the 2 steps. All right, so any questions about number 3? All right, now, but if they ask for the sales tax amount, then you have to physically find it. All right, here is number 6, and this is 2.2, problem number 6. All right, so here it says sales tax. If the purchase price of a bottle of California wine is $24, and the sales tax, so this is not the tax rate, this is the actual sales tax amount, and that's $1.50, then what is the sales tax rate? We had a formula for that as well. The sales tax rate, that's equal to the sales tax amount divided by the purchase price. So the sales tax amount was $1.50. So that's 1.5. We're going to divide that by the purchase price of the wine, which is $24. So that's 1.5 divided by 24. And we get 0.0625. But it wants this answer written out as a percentage. Right. So if we were to change 0.625 to a percent, we would move that decimal 1, 2 places to the right. So that's going to be 6.25%. So that would be the sales tax rate in that particular state. All right, any questions about sales tax? All right, next we're going to look at commission, and I believe that word commission is like missing off of the, that's something that I know that's not there. So I'm going to write some formulas down. You got questions?
Yeah, I do have a question. Okay, suppose the sales tax rate in a certain state is 5% of the purchase price. If the new food processor sells for $750, how much is the sales tax? So just 5% of $750, right?
Should be. They want to know the sales tax amount.
How much is sales tax? That's the question.
So they give you a 5% rate, sales tax rate.
It says I'm gonna say.
So let me, okay.
I can't really see.
Suppose the state there's certain taxes 5%. If a new food processor is, yeah, you just multiply the 750
About 5.
times 0.05.
Okay.
And that'll give it to you. Yeah, just be mindful whenever you're working with percentages, when you use those percentages and calculations, you gotta convert them to a decimal. All right, now the next thing we want to look at is commission, and there are some formulas for commission just as well along with the sales tax. So here's the concept of commission. People who are paid in commissions, the general example is car salesmen. But I know one car salesman, he gets a salary, and then he gets a commission on top of every car he sells. So let's say if the commission rate is like 5%, if he sells a car for, let's say, $20,000, he's going to get 5% of that $20,000. So that's why a lot of car salesmen, if they don't sell a lot of cars, it's no need for them to be employed with the car dealerships. So that's why it's a high turnover rate, especially for people that are just not good salesmen. Okay. So that's the concept of commission. So here's the formula to find the commission amount. So the commission amount is simply going to be the selling price times the commission rate. So like in that example I just mentioned, let's say my friend, he sold a car for $20,000. And then if he has a 5% commission rate, if I were to multiply this 20,000 by 5%, which is 0.05, right? That means he's going to get a commission of $1,000. Right? So it'll be beneficial for him to try to sell as many cars as possible. So that's why when you go to a car dealership, they just hound you. They just stay on top of you, right, trying to make a sale. All right, so that's the commission amount. Next, we have the commission rate. Now, just like the sales tax rate, the rates are usually given. But if the commission rate is not given, you can find it by dividing the commission amount by the purchase price. And then here is the last formula, and it's to find the purchase price. The purchase price can be found by dividing the sales tax amount, or excuse me, the commission amount. We're dealing with commission. Divided by the commission rate. All right, so the commission amount, that's the selling price times the commission rate. The commission rate is the commission amount divided by the purchase price. And the last formula is the purchase price, which is the commission amount divided by the commission rate. All right, so we're going to use these three formulas, okay, to answer the next set of problems. So the next is question number 7. So again, this is 2.2, problem number 7. And it deals with the commission application. It says a tire salesperson has a 14% commission rate. If he sells a set of radial tires for $300, what is his commission? So I'm just going to write out that formula. The commission amount, that's equal to the selling price times the commission rate So the selling price, he sold the tires for $300. He has a commission rate of 14%. So in order to use this 14% in the calculation, we must convert it to a decimal. So we're going to move that decimal 2 places to the left. So 14% is 0.14 as a decimal. So if we multiply the two, 300 times 0.14, that commission is $42. Right, so that's problem number 7. Problem number 10, and again, this is 2.2, number 10. It deals with a commission rate application. A realtor makes a commission of $2,500 on a $50,000 house he sells. What is his commission rate? So I'm going to write out that formula. The commission rate is the commission amount divided by the purchase price, or the selling price. So it reads that his commission amount was $2,500. He sold the house for $50,000. So I'm going to divide 2,500 by 50,000. We get 0.05. But it wants us to answer in the form of a decimal. So I'm going to move that decimal 2 places to the right, add my percent symbol. So his commission rate was 5%. And do you all have number 8? Yeah, I think number 8 is on the back. Yeah, that's on the back. Okay, and this is the commission and purchase price application. Suppose a salesman gets a commission rate of 12% on the lawnmower she sells. If the commission on one of the lawnmowers is $84, what is the purchase price of the lawnmower? So here we're actually finding the purchase price. So we had a formula for that, and the purchase price is the commission amount divided by the commission rate. So the commission amount was $84 that she received for selling one of the lawnmowers. So that's our commission amount, $84. The commission rate is 12%. So in order to use 12% in the calculation, we got to convert it to a decimal. So I'm going to move that decimal 2 places to the left and drop my percent symbol. So we have 0.12. And now I can divide. So 84 divided by 0.12 is $700. Right, so the cost of that lawnmower is $700.